I mean, it makes sense that Tengen was off base when it came to the ultimate conclusion of what the Culling games are for, and I think they even admitted that at some point. Like, I could tell you what the Culling game is, I could tell you how it functions and what it could sort of lead to, but I don't know what Kenjaku's thinking. I don't know why they're doing this. What is the end goal for them? I can only tell you what's sort of happening here. But there could be ultimately a reason for Tengen to sort of mislead them as well. I mean, there's no reason for us to believe that Tengen is going to say everything 100% and be completely clear with them and not potentially lie to Yuji and everybody else. But yeah, this Reggie individual seems to know a lot about the Culling games. And yes, I kind of assume they're probably going to be a sorcerer from the past, somebody that is tied in with Kenjaku, having made a pact with them. But I did kind of get a kick out of that. The moment that Megami meets them, they're like, hey, do you know what the Culling games are for? And then Megami's like, oh, it's a ritual. It's got to be sacrifices to send people to the other side. And I'm like, wait, Megami, why are you divulging this stuff to some random person? Like, what are you doing here? You're here to go find this other guy, and you're just telling some rando everything you know about the situation? What? Megami, what that was... But no, yeah, this Reggie Star guy seems to know quite a bit about this stuff, and it seems to imply the fact that the direction he thinks this going to, and again, I think it's probably to the fact that they have made some pact with Kenjaku and potentially know, or at least pre-plan what they're going to be doing here, knows that Kenjaku wants to essentially cull down the weakest of the weak, bring everybody in here, yeah, even try to force individuals to have some sort of second awakening by just dropping them from the sky, again, Fortnite style. Just dropping them from the sky, them splattering left and right, trying to cause them to have a second awakening in order to get more power. And I guess that technically makes sense. I mean, you have all these individual locations. It implies that there's thousands of people here, 100 in each one of them. All these individuals here, and having really powerful people, extremely powerful people that would just, sneeze at a lot of these individuals and just wipe them out. Again, a lot of people that are just awakening to stuff. That's the oddity there. People that are just awakening to their powers. Or awakening to a power, and them all fighting each other with really powerful people just wiping it all out, is to eventually bring it to this point where you can just have them all clash, this extremely large amount of energy. Now, the question mark is what is he talking about with the whole, dropping the bomb? I don't think he's talking about a literal bomb or like an energy bomb that's going to be coming down on this stuff in order to, I guess, create a collision of energies. I think it's probably going to be something of a technique, causing something to happen, triggering a happening that will go to some ends. Question mark is, what is that? I think that last shot of Kenjaku is a massive question mark for me as to who are these individuals going to? Are they political figures? Are they people that are tied in deeply with some sort of past society of sorcerers? That's the question mark there. They look like just political leaders. As to what those political leaders will be, like coming in there to see like the actual Japanese diet, I can turn everybody into powerful, sorcerers that can take over the world, and Japan will dominate everything. I wouldn't be a stretch for me. I know there's probably some reference to this group, and I'm just completely forgetting it. But what of this group is obviously Kenjaku's tied in with them and working alongside them, so it implies to me that they have some sort of ancient ties. Otherwise, I don't see him working with them in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, what that bomb, though, is going to be is the massive question mark. And I'm assuming it's going to be some sort of, again, finishing technique that's going to apply to this whole situation. Again, building up energy. But I do agree with Reggie here. Why would you assume that kind of stuff? Why would you assume this is all going to play out as Tengen said? There's going to possibly be some other method to this whole thing. That's the question mark there. And it seems like he wants to kind of work with Megami, which is interesting. I don't think Megami's going to join him, but it is interesting to sort of, again, give Megami a little bit of jostle there. I like that Megami picks up like, yeah, I kind of felt something was off. I came here, everything's sort of a stalemate. Everybody's sort of caught in their locations, and that's the assumed thing's going to happen. Everybody's going to get their, territory set up. They're going to get comfortable, and some of them are going to wait out the storm. Some of them are going to want to kind of branch out, but at least acknowledging that there might be something else going at play here. But yeah, that was pretty much the majority of that whole thing there. Nice little reveals. But yes, the majority of this episode, which episode was this? I pretty much forgot my intro here. Episode 55, Jujutsu Kaisen. Yes, the introduction of the lawyer Hiromi Higuruma. This guy is a very interesting fellow. I have to admit, the first half of this episode, I think it was about a half of the episode, I wasn't like thrilled with. I kind of got bored at some point during the episode. It's obviously, highlighting the fact this is a guy that goes after really tough cases. He puts himself out there. He tries to help a lot of individuals with, things that normally would be seen as guilty. Yes, it sort of is the flaws that I've seen several times highlighted by media around Japanese justice system, is that, yeah, typically if you get arrested, you're probably going to get tried and you're going to be guilty. Like, they just assume that most of these people are just guilty from the very beginning. So the justice system is a little bit borked in a lot of ways that I've seen. And this seems to be an individual that sees that it's kind of messed up in a way. And he's experienced it firsthand, where despite the fact that they have so much working for their client that they're defending, in the end, the system is just kind of skewed against them. The public perspective just kind of skews everything. Even before they get in there with that second trial, it's already been decided. They didn't even bring up new information, using the unlimited resources of taxpayer money in order to bring anything to destroy their client. They didn't even bring anything new. They just went, yeah, there's no other person that we can blame this on, basically. Because we don't have this invisible person that could have done it, we're going to assume that it was still this person, and they're guilty. Like, everything is working against him, and it ultimately leads to what it seems to imply. The moment that he was kind of frustrated with this system, he awakened. I'm assuming the Culling games began at that point, and he became awakened to his ability. And yeah, I guess based on what he said to Yuji later on, he killed everybody in the courtroom. He killed the people in the courtroom, or at least the judges. Didn't like them, decided to just wipe them out. He said something effective. Do you think it feels good to take out somebody that's been in, like a thorn in your side or whatever? It feels really good or something like that. Implies that he just kind of took them all out. But yeah, he's been there ever since then, and it seems like he does appreciate, or at least wants to observe, this new system. Being a lawyer that has seen the system fail people so many times, these laws that are in play, that are structured and everything, but they don't work for everybody, and they're still flawed in many certain ways. With this new Culling game, he sees that it's very kind of defined in a way that is kind of flawless, and it does seem like he wants to see how it plays out. Specifically, he wants to see what happens when individuals don't acquire points and they lose their powers. What exactly will happen there? He wants to observe how things play out. And yes, see that it's got a certain system to it that it's interesting. I like the fact that Yuji, when upon, confronting Higuruma, he says, hey, I want to, ask you to spend some points to make a new rule. It's like, no, I'm going to leave it as is. I like how these rules are. It's very strict and everything like that. I'm going to keep it that way. And then usually like, no, you don't understand. This system is going to eventually kill everybody, and it's going to sacrifice everybody in order to send everybody over to this other side. It's going to be this big ritual. And Higuruma says, no, it's not. The system is built to be indefinite. The Culling games insists on its own permanence. And that makes sense, technically. It didn't really dawn on me. But yes, technically, in the rules themselves, they don't want anything placed into it that will cause it to end. The Culling games is built to continue. So you can't really say that it's towards this ritual that will just, everything comes to conclusion, because it's built to keep going. Yuji's like, wait, I don't understand that part. I don't really notice that part either. Yuji doesn't understand it. But yeah, it technically makes sense to me that why would you assume that this thing is built towards this endpoint when it's built around its idea of being continuously energized, continuously fed? But again, that goes to sort of counter to what Reggie's saying. Reggie's saying that it's building up to a point where Kenjaku's going to drop this bomb on it, and it's going to trigger something. So I don't necessarily believe that that's 100% true, but that's at least what, Higuruma believes, and thus he wants to see it continue. But now the only part of Higuruma's character that I really don't fully understand is really around why he would accept this new Culling game versus the justice system. Again, I get that he sees there's flaws in the justice system and it sucks and everything, and it could be the idea that once he was awakened to his powers, it felt really good to kind of destroy that system, destroy the people that were behind the benches. But to come into this system and go, oh, well, this is great, I want to see how this works out, seems odd to me. And it could be a lot to do with the fact that, as they kind of implied throughout his story, is that he's not mentally right. He's not in a good state mentally, because he's seeing this bad stuff happen to people that he feels are innocent. And even though everything was working in their favor, it still ends up badly. And then the individual hates him. Why are you looking at me like that? I told you that it wasn't over yet, that you still have this whole thing, and it didn't work out. I did all I could. Why are you looking at me like I'm the cause of it? He wasn't in a good mental state. So I can see him sort of wanting to gravitate to something and grab onto something. As he was mentioning, he's feeling like he's kind of unfolding. Mid-30s, everything's starting to kind of unravel. He's starting to kind of wanting to try things that he normally told himself that he shouldn't be doing. Just little oddities that he's doing about his life. You know, why not jump into the bathtub with all of your clothes on? Why do you have to take them off? It kind of feels good. He's doing all these odd things that kind of see him out. So I can see him going, let's give it a shot. Let's give it a quick shot. Let's see what kind of happens here. Again, what happens when somebody runs out of time? Do they lose their power? What happens to them? Do they die? Again, we haven't confirmed that. But he also says, what if people who broke the rules were punished by physics without any need of prosecutions or trial or anything? Wouldn't that be wonderful? I kind of wonder if he's talking about the idea of, like, again, adding some sort of rule to the system. I don't think there was a rule that implied this, but adding a rule to the system where, yeah, it's absolute. That if somebody were to break the law, boom, they die. Like, the laws of the system, the laws of sorcery and this big pact that was made with this Culling game, the rules of it just cause you to die. You just get punished immediately. What if we had a system like that? We wouldn't need to have a trial if, okay, say you're at a store and somebody runs by and snags a lady's purse, and immediately they just fall to the ground dead. You wouldn't need a trial. You just, well, he obviously broke the rules because he fell dead. The system handled it all for them. I think that's sort of what he's talking about there. And again, it's from a mind state of seeing sort of a corrupt world that has so many flaws to its systems and how the people see the justice system. Again, as much as I found a lot of that first half of the episode kind of dragging out and a little bit too much, and at some point I'm like, get on with the punchline, it cemented the point. This is a guy who was trying very hard to push back against the system that was just working against the people. Working against people that, made a couple of wrong decisions based on their circumstances. Like the guy was kind of going through. He was living in this one location. They weren't allowed to call the police. He was trying to bide his time. He was already wrongfully accused for something else. He doesn't really trust the police to begin with. It's just like everything was working against him. But he was somewhere else that entire time. But still, they have nobody else to blame it on, so they blame it on him. The system needed somebody to punish. The people were accepting that he was the one. Why not make him guilty? Interesting little domain expansion, though. Yuji says he's going to pretty much force him. Guy gets up, domain expansion, deadly sentencing. He creates a courtroom. So, I don't know. Based on the preview kind of quotes at the very end of the episode, kind of implies the idea of Yuji going to basically be on trial against himself or trial for himself. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. I think that's pretty much it. Looking at my notes. Oh, yeah, there was a slight mention from Reggie that the potential of, I guess, what Tengen mentioned about the whole ritual could technically be a plan B or a C. It could be a bluff, a plan B or C. That makes sense. Again, that everything that Tengen's seeing is technically logical in how they function and that it could lead to this end goal, but they could be, again, background choices. They could be backup options to this other plan that's going on. So... But yeah, that's my thoughts on the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content and want to support y'all more, become a member. Until next time, y'all take care.